Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to My Money, Your Money, where we talk about all things money with the goal of closing the racial wealth gap. I'm your host, Brigette Lumpkins. I earned an MBA from Wharton and have worked at such firms as Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brothers, covering both private and institutional clients, as well as raising capital for investment funds. I am so pleased to welcome our guest, Bria Harris, today. Bria Harris is the founder and owner of Empress Tax Services, where she focuses on providing tax guidance for her clients to optimize their wealth building journey. Bria, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, we had a bit of a chance to chat and get warmed up before we started today. So I wanted to ask a question I didn't get to ask in our warm up intro, which is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to the point where you decided to found Empress Tax Services?
Sure. So, a little bit about myself. I would consider myself a small town girl with big dreams.
Yeah.
um, when I decided to major in college, finance and accounting, it was something different than what everybody traditionally would tell you to go to school for. Go to school to be a nurse, go to school to be a lawyer, go practice in pre-med, biology. So I wanted to do something that was different in the minority field that I feel like a lot of minorities don't get into, which is tough financials. So kudos to you as well because your credentials are amazing. And going to work for corporate America, for me was okay, but I felt like it was slowly picking up. You put in a lot of work, you put 12, 15, 16 hours in a day for someone, and I felt like sometimes we don't appreciate it.
Mhm.
So for me, I said, how can I take my passion and what I love to do, but do it on my own and be able to service other people? So that's how Empress Tax Service ended up coming about. When COVID and they were starting to lay off people 2019, 2020, I decided to quit my job and found my own company, and it worked out great.
Well, good for you. And, I think it's very common, your story. I mean, having done my tours of duty at really major Fortune 100 companies, a few of them, I really strongly relate to the concept that, working in that corporate machine and being an employee number, especially as a Black woman, is just not a sustainable long-term affair, right? Like you kind of you get there to learn your chops and sort of get polished up and learn what you need to learn. And then entrepreneurship makes so much sense for someone like you, someone like me. So that's really glad that you found your way to doing that. And one of the things the main focus of this show really is the racial wealth gap. And I wanted to ask you a question that's kind of nuanced, which is when you're talking about tax planning strategies, especially since you decided to focus on our community, the Black community, do you observe any differences in that tax planning strategy between white families and Black families, right? What does the majority do that like enables them to amass so much wealth aside from the original wealth theft? How does that continue and persist and is perpetuated through how they address their tax strategy?
Yes. So I see a big difference. In the Black community, a lot of us focus on trying not to pay taxes. A lot of us focus on wanting refunds back, wanting to stay under a certain annual gross income to be able to receive those tax benefits that the federal agency does give out at the end of the year if you are considered being low income or under a certain tax bracket, versus working with other cultures, which I do, because even though I do have a lot of, minority clients, I do have a fair amount of equal Spanish, Caucasian. So I have a equal amount of clientele, but they're not as scared if I say, hey, at the end of the year, okay, well, your business owed 13,000. Okay, no problem. Where I send a check to, versus someone in our community, they're like 13,000. Whoa, hold on. How can we get that down? Because I'm not ready for that. Or, what is estimated payments? I don't understand what that, so the difference that I see is that I feel like finances is not being taught in the home enough. So when we get out here and we start running businesses or we get those 6-figure jobs and we're not understanding the W-4 background or we're not understanding exactly how to strategize with our money, it is just a little bit different in the Black communities. They do focus on more not trying to pay taxes versus more, hey, can I get a refund back?
That really set off so many light bulbs in my head because I spent years as a wealth advisor at Goldman Sachs and we planned tax strategies, but the strategy was always to have more income and then other strategies to reduce your tax liability versus focusing on lowering your income actually earned, right, to avoid paying taxes. So that's a great tee up for my next question, which is what are some underutilized strategies that you think Black families and Black entrepreneurs could use that would help catch up or sort of increase or decrease their tax liability and be more strategic and help them along the way in terms of building wealth?
So what I've noticed with a lot of my people when they do decide to come to me, I kind of get them, embrace them more of, hey, it's okay to come out of a certain tax bracket. It's okay to embrace that tax bracket. How can you strategize on, hey, I make 150,000 a year. All right, maybe not claim myself independence on my W-4, claim zero, go down to the additional tax bracket, take out an additional X amount of dollars, and then that will make you to where at the end of the year, you don't have to owe, because you don't have to owe if you hit a certain tax bracket. You will on the IRS side once you hit a certain tax bracket, but on the paperwork side, you could try to limit the amount that you owe at the end of the year just by following just, hey, paying additional taxes and taking out more funds. Some are scared to do that because they're like, hey, my paychecks, if we're living paycheck to paycheck, cost of living has been, went up. But if we stop focusing on the paycheck to paycheck and budgeting and living between our means and what we're making, I mean, if you have money and you're understanding with strategy, it can work. So for me, I just kind of strategize people just to get them to say, hey, it's okay. Understand the meaning of taxes, the purpose of taxes, and come out of the mindset of Uncle Sam wants there, because at the end of the day, we have to give it to him regardless.
Well, some of the clients that I've worked with is like, if you have taxes to pay, that means it's a good problem because it means you made money, right?
Yeah.
And you're better off paying more taxes on more money than you are making less money just so you pay fewer taxes or less taxes to the government, right? Like this is a good problem to have taxes owed as long as they're not in arrears, right? Which is a whole other conversation. So when you talk about entrepreneurs, right, because we're pretty much talking about individual personal net income, when you talk about entrepreneurs, what kind of strategies would you offer that you think are underutilized to Black entrepreneurs in that community to help them minimize or address their tax burden?
Not always jump up and do an LLC. I think a lot of people feel like, hey, we have to do an LLC. Why not S Corp? Why not C Corp? Why not tax yourself as an S Corp on an LLC? A lot of people don't know the different tax write-offs and benefits between partnerships, and there's 4 different types of partnerships versus S Corp or C Corp versus what an LLC will have to offer. And I feel like once you start making a certain type of money in the entrepreneurship, you need to sit down and analyze which one will actually be better for you and as a company and as an individual where you could benefit the most. So you can still have your tax breaks and your expense breaks, but also still be profitable, because the IRS wants you to be profitable within 3 years of starting your business. They don't want you to have a loss every year. So if you're still at a loss every year after expenses and you're not being profitable, then we might want to re-strategize what you're doing in business wise. So I always tell everybody to sit down with either your EA, your CPA, someone who actually specializes in the financial field, to sit down and see what benefits would you actually more benefit for your company. Some of my clients, I took them from LLC to an S Corp. Why? Because S Corp have more tax benefits for your company than an LLC would. LLC only going to take you so far. LLC is a limited liability company. What does that mean? It's just a person cannot sue you personally. They can sue your business. So a lot of people want to start LLCs because that's all you hear on up and down TikTok and Instagram. Start your LLC, start your LLC. Then you hear somebody say an S Corp. What? What is an S Corp? I don't understand. I don't want to pay 2 different taxes. Well, then you start going over the benefits and they say, oh, that makes more sense.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is sort of LLC is beginner level and S Corp is more advanced, requiring, maybe when you've grown or when you've gotten more sophisticated, in your entrepreneurship journey, or even if you're setting up an LLC just to, for your side hustles, et cetera, to capture that income.
But the thing is, you can still have an LLC, which is not an issue because I started my brand as an LLC, but I also put the application in with the IRS to tax myself as an S Corp.
Gotcha.
So I get the special benefits on my taxes at the end of the year. So you can start your LLC, But it's going to be at some point in time where when you start elevating, I always say, when you start making 60,000 or more, sit down.
Okay.
It's time. It's time.
All right. So I have a quick question I want to ask you after the commercial break before we go into more, but we have to pay the bill. So sit tight. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vice Mayor Yvette Colburn, inviting you to Juneteenth Family Day, a celebration of freedom, independence, and history. Thursday, June 19th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Miramar City Hall Plaza. Bring the entire family for line dancing, art exhibits, and an exciting step show, and so much more, featuring guest speaker Dr. Eddie Claude Jr. Register now at JuneteenthFamilyDay.eventbrite.com.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. Two powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. Get your crew. You don't want to miss this. Lock in your seats now at orangeblossomclassic.com.
Miami-Dade is filled with dreams, talent, love. At the Children's Trust, we are dedicated to nurturing the potential of every child and family with hundreds of trust-funded programs. Find a program at thechildrenstrust.org.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
Did you know that about 32% of all items thrown into the trash could be recycled?
Recycling right is a big deal for our planet.
By recycling right, you're helping protect our planet.
The Solid Waste Authority of Broward County is working on a master plan for our future garbage and recycling systems, and we need your input.
Please attend one of our upcoming public meetings to learn about the master plan. The same info will be shared at both meetings, so choose the one that works best for your schedule.
And your opinion really matters.
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
So thanks for sticking with us. Before we went to break, you said something that I wanted to double click on because I think a lot of people don't know what it means. And you said an EA. What is an EA and what role do they play?
Yes. So an EA is an enrolled agent. You still have to study. So it's a requirement that's not a requirement from the IRS. It's only if you really want to study your tax laws. So I decided to go to Becker. Becker is also available for our CPA. So we actually go on there and we take our test, right? And I actually study for a year, and it's three different parts to an EA exam where it really focuses on tax benefits, tax laws, and retirement, and different things that we don't learn in college as a CPA. So an EA is just an enrolled agent, which gives the IRS representation. So I can go and represent my client as a CPA or as an EA, but I just more knowledgeable in tax laws now.
Okay,
so it's just more elevation.
It's a specialized certification that gives you some sort of credential with the IRS that's issued by the IRS. And Becker is the test prep provider that you use to prepare and take the test they administer.
Yes.
Okay, understood. And they are the same provider that does the CPA exam. So for our aspiring EAs and CPAs out there, check out Becker. For potential clients out there, you may want to consider what are the advantages from a client perspective of engaging with an enrolled agent versus a CPA? Is it that you are authorized to engage on their behalf, or is there some additional benefit?
No, I think the additional benefit for me is really understanding what the IRS is looking for. As CPAs, we don't go to school to do taxes. Every
Right.
CPA will tell you we do not go to school to do taxes.
Right.
So how can you really understand what taxes are with the laws changing year from year to year?
Yeah.
So in order for you to really understand taxes and really go in headstrong for where a client can come in and ask you any tax questions and you're not sitting there like, hold on, let me go Google that or let me go figure out what that is. Being an EA just give you a extra additional benefit. For someone who does not want to be a CPA or does not want to go 4 years in accounting school for finance, you can go and get your EA and you can still practice taxes and specialized taxes. And it will help you understand on an individual in business side where a CPA, we already know, but that would help them. And also you can still represent your clients. So if they get audited by the IRS, if you're an EA, a tax attorney, or a CPA, you can go in and represent. If you're just a regular tax professional, you can't do anything. They have to go elsewhere and start looking. Also, an EA can also do offer and compromises like a CPA. They're able to do certain things and act accordingly on the tax side.
So offering compromises, does that relate to tax debt?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about your services with respect to tax debt for individuals and businesses?
Yes. So I also do offer compromises, and I also partner with the tax debt resolution company. So if you owe $10,000 or more, we negotiate with the IRS to help you bring down your tax debt.
For example, people who own homes in neighborhoods that were affected by redlining and now have some sort of tax burden that they can't get out from under. Do you see the residual effects of such discriminatory like redlining, like not allowing insurance, all of those kinds of things when you're dealing with people and their tax burden today? Or is that something that you feel has been washed out and doesn't show up in your practice?
It shows up. I don't say it's super heavy, but it definitely does show up still. There is still plenty of people still struggling to recover in certain areas. I think COVID really did a number on a lot of companies, a lot of people who went and maybe bought homes and now they're like, I can't afford it because the money's not there or the resources not there anymore. So I do see it. And it's just in specific industries and where you at. So,
right.
Yeah.
So talking about keeping in that theme of sort of real estate with respect to redlining, but sort of still moving along, when you think about tax advantage savings accounts like 401ks and IRAs and how people sometimes leverage those assets to buy a home or make other investments, can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on how to most effectively and prudently leverage tax advantage assets for investment in general, especially in real estate, right? Like, so you can take up to a certain amount out of your 401k to buy a property. Is that something you see tax implications of being a difficult thing to manage, or how would you advise clients move forward on that?
You can do it. Make sure when you do it, it's an IRA Roth. Very specific. Okay. So if you want to claim that tax benefit and you actually want to get rid of being taxed on that, make sure it's a Roth account. Okay. So very, very, very crucial on that. I have been seeing a lot of my clients that will pull 401ks to be able to buy properties. I've been also seeing since the economy has changed and people are just pulling from 401k and IRA altogether to get caught up on bills, student loans, medical debt, using it to buy real estate, using it to pay back. So I've been seeing it. Just take out taxes when you do it. A lot of people don't want to take out the taxes, but I've been seeing it. But make sure if you do an investment and you open up a 401k, make sure it's an IRA Roth. It's very specific on who qualifies. And when you're doing a home buying, make sure it's a first time home buyer as well. So if you're pulling, in order for you to get the penalty waived, it has to be your first time home. So if you're pulling from your IRA account or your 401k and this is your third home, you won't qualify to be able to get that break onto the IRS.
That's really good advice, actually. That's something that I personally will be taking a note of. in particular, not to put all my business out there, but I will be taking note of that specific piece of advice. So we need to take another quick break to pay the bills. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vice Mayor Yvette Colburn, inviting you to Juneteenth Family Day, a celebration of freedom, independence, and history. Thursday, June 19th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Miramar City Hall Plaza. Bring the entire family for line dancing, art exhibits, and an exciting step show, and so much more, featuring guest speaker Dr. Eddie Claude Jr. Register now at JuneteenthFamilyDay.eventbrite.com.
History? Yeah, we built that. Pride? We fuel that. And on August 30th, we run that. Two powerhouse HBCUs, Howard Bison, FAMU Rattlers, one legendary showdown under the Miami lights at Hard Rock Stadium. The energy unmatched. The culture undeniable. The vibes straight HBCU. Get your crew. You don't want to miss this. Lock in your seats now at orangeblossomclassic.com.
Miami-Dade is filled with dreams, talent, love. At the Children's Trust, we are dedicated to nurturing the potential of every child and family with hundreds of trust-funded programs. Find a program at thechildrenstrust.org.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman and Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family. Our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. Demesman and Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
Did you know that about 32% of all items thrown into the trash could be recycled?
Recycling right is a big deal for our planet.
By recycling right, you're helping protect our planet.
The Solid Waste Authority of Bragg County is working on a master plan for our future garbage and recycling systems, and we need your input.
Please attend one of our upcoming public meetings to learn about the master plan. The same info will be shared at both meetings, so choose the one that works best for your schedule.
And your opinion really matters.
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
Thank you for sticking with us. We're here with Bria Harris, who runs Empress Tax Services, here for all of your tax planning and strategy needs. And so I wanted to talk about people who are just starting out, right? We've kind of spent a lot of time talking about people who may have some existing investments or issues, but in terms of forward-thinking planning, you're starting your professional career, you have pretty much a clean slate with the IRS. What are some top tips you would give someone to make sure that they are most effectively planning for future tax liability and setting themselves up for success and minimizing tax and also just staying out of trouble with the IRS?
No problem. If you're W-2, always look over your W-4 forms. Make sure, again, you're filling out correctly. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm married, so I do married filing jointly or married filing separately. Every good tax professional will tell you, every good accountant will tell you on a W-4 form, always mark yourself as single. Never claim dependents, never claim yourself, because what happens is you're telling the IRS or the state, because I do state taxes for some clients as well, that I need more money back on my paychecks now and I don't mind owing at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So if you are making a certain type of money, you're making $100,000 or more, I always advise you on your W-4 to where on the line number 4, where it's additional taxes, take out additional taxes depending on how much you're making. Another thing, always sit down, go over your budget. Where you want to see yourself a year from now? Do you have your savings account? What is your savings account going to be utilized for? Do you want to save it for that first major car that you may want? Do you want to save it for that home? Sit down and go over your investments. Sometimes when you're working for somebody, not all the time, their 401k plans or their life insurance are the best policies. Shop. Sometimes you may need to go shop and see what other ones that it could match out here. I used to work for a company where they never gave me a life insurance policy where I have now to where my kids is okay. My kids also have IRAs now. They have IRAs I pay for, so they set themselves up to where they can't touch it till, of course, they get grown, but at least they'll have a certain amount of money to be able to have already invested. So those are things you could sit down with your local accountant or your EA holder or your tax professional, someone that actually specializes in those things, and kind of just look over. So when you're fresh, just sit down and just go over what your long-term goals are. Don't just think about now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Where do you really want to see yourself at? So if you know you want to retire by the age of 59 and a half when you could touch it, and you want 2.1 million, maybe you might want to look at a different investment account. Maybe you might want to look into the IRA account that is just not an individual account where right now you can only do up to 7,500. Maybe you may want to look in for my business owners to my business account where, you know, you can invest up to 20,000 or more a year. So you can retire with that 2.1 million that you may want to retire with by the time you hit 59 and a half, you know, so it's good. There's just always look over. And even though you start something now, look at it 5 years from now. Things change.
Right.
So you may want to just look and say, hey, when I first got that plan, it sounded good, but now my life is changing a little bit. Let me just go and look and just reevaluate a little bit more. And that's okay. So when you're starting out fresh, always just look over everything possible. If you're starting a business, sit down with a lawyer and a CPA from the beginning, because they can get you on point with bookkeeping, making sure your P&Ls are okay. A lot of people, when you say P&Ls, what is that? It's your profit and loss statement. Oh, I never had that before, So how do you know what you execute, right? So, those are things that, again, your tax professional, your EA, your accountant can do to give you a fresh pair of eyes. And it's okay to shop for a CPA or a tax professional. Not everybody may know certain things are hidden gems. So just always just sit down and just look at a fresh pair of eyes and just have a game plan from start to top. And if you are coming reluctant, listen. Because sometimes, when you actually get on the right track and you're like, hey, it's not that bad. Take it from somebody from me. Like, I used to think when I was younger, I'm not paying nobody $90,000, $100,000 in taxes a year. What is that? Oh, well, you don't have to do it all at once. What is estimated quarterly payments? How do you register your business? How do you register yourself on individual if you're a 1099 or self-employed? So you can start paying some of your tax debt in advance. So by the time you come to me at the end of the year, maybe you made less or made more, and then you can apply that and get a refund or apply it to the following tax year. So those are things that, sit down with somebody. Don't be so reluctant.
Well, this has been a great chat. I learned a lot. Can you really quickly just tell everybody where to find you on Instagram or wherever? And we really thank you for your wisdom and willingness to be open and share today.
Of course. My name is Bria Harris. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn at Empress Tax Service 19 or Empress Tax Service, and then on TikTok at Boss Lady Tax Plug.
Thank you so much, Bria. And thank you, audience, for joining us today. Let's continue to work together to close that gap.